Well, Vincent, you know, we've been tracking what's going on in Sudan. Seems
Right
pretty
from the
hopeful.
beginning of this week, yeah.
Well, yeah, we have been keeping track this week of a possible ceasefire in Sudan's war-torn Darfur region. But rebels in the region are dismissing President Omar al-Bashir's call to end the fighting. They say President Bashir cannot be trusted and that when he calls for a truce, it means he is preparing a new offensive. The rebels say they will only agree to a ceasefire within an overall framework for peace. Mr. Bashir has announced several ceasefires during the nearly 6-year Darfur conflict. All of them have failed. Now, recently in Washington, a group of Sudanese and their supporters held a protest outside the Sudanese embassy. These protesters say they want the world to know that thousands of people are still dying in Darfur despite the government's denial. They blame Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir and his government, and they want him arrested. Darfurian El Tijani Abdul Ghazim traveled from Philadelphia for this vigil. He dismisses Mr. Bashir's claims that only 10,000 have died and that the government is not to blame.
Actually, they killed more than 300,000 people, and more than 3 million people are displaced and refugees in Chad or in other neighboring countries.
Mohammed El Ghadi is the representative of the Western Massachusetts Darfur Coalition. He also says he has first-hand knowledge of torture camps and atrocities in Sudan.
He's a liar. I will give you a proof. I'm one of the people who was in the prison of one of what is called the ghost houses, torture concentration camps in Sudan. And this is in 1992, and President Bashir came on radio to the international media. He said, I do not have any political prisoner. There is no torture in Sudan.
Suad Mansour left Darfur before the violence began in 2003. She says she has relatives still living in various camps in Darfur, and they tell her about government atrocities, including the rape of women and children.
I'm here and our sister over there just suffering. That thing drove me all the time and motivated me to come here and to talk about them.
Many Darfurians at this vigil say they want to pressure the international community to step up efforts and end the violence by enforcing the ICC arrest warrant against Mr. Bashir and expediting the United Nations Security Council resolution intended to pave the way for peacekeepers to the volatile region. Though the ICC indictment against Mr. Bashir has failed to bring about the desired results, this group here hopes through such vigils as the one that it is holding today, that one day enough pressure will be brought to bear on Mr. Bashir and that he will face justice.
There is a process, but it is very, very slow, and people still are dying on the ground.
Meanwhile, across town near the U.S. Capitol, other activists with a group called Tents of Hope sent a different message for Darfur. Lou Ann Merkel organized the vigil and also is part of a campaign by the United Church of Christ to raise American awareness about Darfur.
There's a genocide happening, and the Tents of Hope is to involve Americans in saying there is something we can do. We must push. And this vigil is very important because we're calling for the arrest of Omar al-Bashir.
Reverend Natalie Shiraz is a Church of Christ pastor in Massachusetts. She says the message is catching on.
When this youth group painted the tents, they felt connected through their messages to the children and the families of Darfur. And one girl said, I'll never forget, I feel love as I'm writing this message of love.
Reverend Shiraz says about 400 tents like these will be sent to Darfur in the next few weeks as shelter for the refugees. Dimyake Mwakaliele, VOA News.